now it's time for one of our favorite guests here on the U.S. Report, former White House Chief of Staff and Senior Advisor at Bondi Partners, Mick Mulvaney. Mick, I want to start with Nikki Haley and her announcement that she's throwing her hat in the ring for 2024. Let's talk about the politics of this. If the GOP has Haley, presumably DeSantis, and then some others we've talked about in the race, does this split the anti-Trump vote and actually strengthen his case for being the nominee?
Yeah, James, it's great to see you. After this is over, I'd like to be curious to know as to who you're wearing tonight and whether or not you stole any luggage, but we can do that later. Nikki Haley, here's the situation with that, is that there's some great polling out recently in the last 2 weeks or so that shows Ron DeSantis beating Trump in a head-to-head race. You and I have talked about that before. But the same polling shows Trump winning if anybody else, most specifically Nikki Haley, is in the race. So whether or not she's in it to win it, I think she is. But whether or not she then acts as a spoiler, it's going to be a very interesting story to follow. Because right now, with the three of them hypothetically in the race, Trump is the nominee again.
Now, Nikki is taking a bit of a new approach to the campaign. Have a listen to this here.
The Washington establishment has failed us over and over and over again. It's time for a new generation of leadership to rediscover fiscal responsibility, secure our border, and strengthen our country, our pride, and our purpose.
Now, that new generation talk, and she also echoed that at her campaign kickoff rally, clearly a shot at Joe Biden, but was that also a shot at Trump's age as well, Mick?
Oh, absolutely. It's a shot at Trump. In fact, I took it as more of a shot at Trump than a shot at Biden. Keep in mind, any Republican can beat up on Biden on any number of things on policy matters, right? They don't need to go after his age. Everybody knows it. But on Trump, everything else she said, every other Republican is going to say about securing the borders, economic prosperity, competence, etc. It's the age thing that I think she and other younger Republicans will harp on as they start to go against Trump. So, no, I didn't take that as a shot against Biden as much as I did against Trump.
Yeah, and Trump is returning fire. It didn't take too long for him to come out and release a list of things. I mean, it was the sort of thing that campaigns give to journalists all the time with quotes and saying she's backflipped and called it the real Nikki Haley. So what did you make of this? Is he now moving away from Ron DeSantis to have a shot at Nikki?
Yeah, I got the same thing. I got that email. I got an email from a group called Never Nikki. You never know who these groups are. Are they third parties? Are they the Trump team themselves? When you hear Trump starting attacking her by name in person, when he's speaking from the podium and he starts attacking Nikki, then that's sort of a heightened level of attack. Right now, these little emails could come out from any groups, most of them trying to raise money. So be curious to see as we get through the race, Trump, who has sort of focused on DeSantis exclusively up to now, starts to sort of spread his gaze wider to attack Nikki personally as well.
Now, the thing is, though, about this whole question about whether Nikki Haley is a spoiler or not, I also think, and we've spoken about this too, there's a real generational fight here because if you get, DeSantis, Haley, and presumably a bunch of other candidates in the race, Trump suddenly starts to look quite old. Will the Republican elders start to think, really, do we want to have the first mover advantage and get a younger candidate before the Democrats do and presumably run Joe Biden again?
Yeah, both parties are struggling with this. They're both looking at the last of the last generation, right? The Democrats have Joe Biden. Whoever comes next is going to be from the next generation. The Republicans are looking at Trump. Whoever comes next is from the next generation. And they're sort of falling over each other to see who goes first, because if the Republicans pick a younger person, they're likely to win. If the Democrats pick a younger person, they're likely to win. But if you end up being the second mover in that competition, you end up losing power until at least 2028 and possibly beyond that. So, yeah, it's a struggle that both of the parties are going through right now, but very little they can do about it. You can't get Biden out of the way, and the Republicans can't get Trump out of the way. So they're going to have to sort of slug it out man to man, and in Nikki's case, woman to man.
Yeah, well, it's going to be fascinating to watch. And, we've spoken a lot about Donald Trump's attacks on all of his rivals. And just because Nikki Haley has entered the race, it doesn't mean the heat has been completely taken off Ron DeSantis. Now, I love this here. Trump has been reportedly calling Ron DeSantis Meatball Ron. I'm not quite sure what that means. And I don't know about you, but it makes me think more about ordering a pizza than politics. Can you explain Meatball Ron to me, Mick?
Yeah, it means that Trump thinks he's fat. That's what it means. It means he looks like a meat. That's exactly what it means. And look at what we've done now. He started with Ron DeSanctimonious. That did work because it's just not accurate. Then he tried to switch to a rhino globalist, which did work because it's not believable. For Trump to call somebody a meatball because they're overweight or slightly overweight that's a little bit ironic. Because as energetic and as vibrant as Trump is, he's not a slim guy. So I'm not sure this is the right move he wanted to make. But listen, as soon as all the Republicans saw that, all my folks saw that, like, oh my goodness, is Trump actually attacking somebody else for being overweight? But that's politics right now in the Republican Party in 2023.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty grim picture you paint there if it's just all these sort of playground insults. And this is my question here, though. Does Donald Trump, with all of the Meatball Ron and the, backflipping Nikki and all of that stuff, does the shtick, for lack of a better word, that worked so well the last time around for him, have people started to see through that? Or do you think that, this is an act that he can take on the road again?
I used to have these conversations with the president all the time when he would do something and I would start to suggest maybe something else. And he'd look at me and he says, have you ever been elected president? Have you ever won a primary? Have you ever? No, you haven't. So you be quiet now. We're going to do it my way. He's going to continue to do this. It's what worked for him in 2016. He thinks it's going to work for him again in 2024. Do I think people are tired of it? Yes, I do. I think they want to know, if I vote for Donald Trump, am I going to get the same thing I got last time, or am I going to get something better? Look, we could all give Trump all the advice we could want to. He's not going to listen. He's going to do what he wants. But it will be interesting to see if folks actually buy this, because it's sort of become old hat. What's the next thing that Donald Trump can offer instead of a rehash of what he did in 2016?
Well, I mean, that's a fascinating question because, you think about, musical acts like the Rolling Stones or Bob Dylan, they reinvent themselves. But Trump, for as long as I've been following him, and I've been following him since when I was a kid in New York, and he was a real estate developer going bankrupt, building towers, he's always been Trump. So you reckon he just thinks this is going to work for him going forward?
Yeah, you can go back. There's actually an ESPN special about the USFL, which is 30 or 40 years old right now, when Donald Trump owned a team and was trying to sue the National Football League in the United States of America. And you watch that tape from 30 and 40 years ago, and he's exactly the same. He's never changed. I don't think he's going to change. And his argument would be, why would I change if it's always worked for me? Keep in mind, he still thinks he was reelected in 2020. He doesn't think that he lost. So he's looking his hand over and going, I'm going to do what I've always done because the results have always worked for me. I don't expect Donald Trump to change. I could be wrong. He's one of the best politicians I've ever met, but I don't think he's going to change his stripes between now and the election.
Well, you got to love the confidence. But just before we go, Mick, veteran Democrat Dianne Feinstein has announced she will be retiring. Now, tell us a little bit about her career and the impact she's going to leave from all of those decades she spent in politics.
Yeah, she's been a giant in politics, especially in Democrat politics, I think for 30 or 40 years. I don't know how old the senator is. She's probably in her mid-80s. She may be older than that, but she has been just a pillar of the Democrat Party. And that seat, that California seat, is the closest thing we have to the presidency outside of the White House. It's one of the most coveted seats. It's the Senate seat from the largest state in the nation. People tend to hold these seats for generations. Generations. Barbara Boxer was there for almost as long as Senator Feinstein was before her. So it's going to be a dramatic battle within the Democrat Party. You're going to see progressives on the left, centrist, sort of center-left. Adam Schiff is talking about running. I know we'll have a lot of fun talking about him in the coming months. This is going to be the second biggest race in the country after the White House.
Mick Mulvaney, thank you so much. It's going to be absolutely fascinating to watch that battle for the soul of the of the Democrat Party. Sorry, I got a case of the Bidens there. Thank you so much, Mick Mulvaney.